A father and son team is involved in a very lengthy and a very exhausting job. You see, this is a family business, and so they are involved in flooring, carpet, tile, you name it. And as I mentioned toward the end of this particular job, the work is becoming more and more grueling. And so the son, having been trained by his father, continues to work hard right alongside his father. But you see, he makes a mistake. He cuts a piece of tile in a way that is going to be distressful to the father. It's going to be a hindrance because it's going to add some time to the job. And so the father, after having found out the son's mistake, begins to berate his son, to speak harshly to him, even using a little profanity in the midst of their discussion. And even though the situation is quickly corrected by the son, the effects of what his father said lingers in his mind. Even after the job is finished and even after he's returned to his home, and as he's sitting down on the couch watching television, what his father says continues to ring in his mind. Well, have you ever found yourself in that particular situation? Well, the things that are said to you are so harsh, they're so difficult to deal with that you find your mind continuing to linger, to replay that situation back and forth, and to really try to understand what's going on. Have you ever found yourself in that position? I have, and as a matter of fact, the son in my illustration was actually me. But you see, in some time, I was able to speak with my father, and I was very candid with him. We had a conversation in which I called him at a good time, and I told him, I said, I need to talk to you. And so in our discussion, I helped my father to appreciate that I could understand any instructions that he would give me. I could comprehend any directions that he levied upon me if he simply told me what it was he wanted me to do. There was no need to be sarcastic. There was no need to curse. There was no need to demean. Just tell me what you want me to do. And I thought that was necessary because, listen, as a family, we were taught his craft. And so it was okay with me to go and to help and to do whatever it was that he needed. I respected the fact that he had a craft that he was good at, and I respected the fact that he wanted to teach me, but I did not agree with the fact that he thought that it was okay to berate and use profanity in order to get his point across. He didn't have to do that. We were trained in the way where we could understand. And I'm happy to say that after I had that conversation with my father, we never had that difficulty again. I was respectful in my speech, and to my surprise, he was respectful in his. So evidently he understood where his son was coming from. But in some situations, it doesn't work out like that, does it? In some situations, that harmful speech is just going to be used, right? So now, what does cursing, profanity, sarcasm, all of these forms of speech that's meant to hurt, to cut, to tear, what does that do? What does that do for the user? Well, you'd be interested to find out that contrary to what you might think, a lot of psychologists agree that cursing in the midst of a difficult situation is a good thing, right? Let me read something to you. Studies show cursing during a physically painful event can help us better tolerate the pain. Experts say using curse words can also help us build emotional resilience and cope with situations in which we feel that we have no control. So evidently it's a good thing, right? Cursing. So you see that maybe that lady that's in line and the price on this particular item, maybe it's a piece of, well, I don't know. Let's say it's a package of pork chops, and the price on the pork chops is $3, and when she gets to the register is $4.50, and she begins to go off. Maybe that's a positive response on her end. Maybe that's a response that later on will make her feel better about the situation. That's kind of counterintuitive, though, don't you think? Being there, hearing her and seeing her can't be good for those around her, but according to this information, it helps you build emotional resilience and to cope with situations where you feel like you have no control. And you can see that happening. You can see that happening in your day-to-day life. I want you to look at, especially today, look at the amount of times and situations where people resort to using foul language. Is mostly in situations where they feel like they have no control, or they're frustrated, or something has happened to them and they feel that they need some kind of release. And instead of doing physical harm to someone, they decide that this will be the release that they will use. And for all intended purposes, as we looked at the research, maybe this is a proper release. But what are we not taking into consideration? It's something we're leaving out. What is it? Well, we're leaving out the effect that it has on other individuals. Now, you as the user, you may have that release that you need. You may feel good. But now what about those in and around the area where you choose to make this kind of release? What effect did it have on them? Okay, let's go back to the research. And what we're going to look at is what kind of effect it has on the brains of the individuals around you. Notice what it says: buried deep just above the brainstem, the amygdala is involved with strong emotions, especially fear and threat detection. Right? So we're dealing with fight or flight. That's what this is called. As it goes on, notice what it says: after encountering a swear, this structure sounds the alarm, making your brain work overtime to scrutinize the situation. You even break out in a light sweat. So now this is on the part of individuals that this release might be directed at. This is the person you're cursing out, as some of us would say. This is the effect that it's having on their brain. You notice it's causing the brain to work overtime. And then you even may break out in the light sweat. So what are you trying to do? You're trying to assess the situation to see what you need to do. Do you need to run, or do you need to prepare yourself for a physical encounter? So now think about that for a moment. Think about the effect that they could have on an individual if they're exposed to this particular kind of stimulant, over time, and their exposure is in multiple situations. Your brain working overtime, right? So you can imagine the amount of anxiety this would cause. Individuals would constantly be nervous because they're constantly having to be put in a situation where they have to determine whether or not they should run or they should take a stand and prepare for a physical encounter. This is what profanity does. This is what cursing does. And for those of us who are no stranger to these things, we know what this means, because in certain groups, certain ethnicities, right? When the profanity starts, when the cussing starts, then you get ready, because you know what's coming next, right? And usually that's how physical encounters start. They start with damaging speech. They start with profanity and sarcasm and things of that sort. And then after a while, if given the necessary stimulus into that situation, it begins to elevate. And then after it elevates, then you have a physical confrontation, right? So that's the effect that it has on the hearer. Even though it might be a release for the user, for the hearer, it puts the individual's body in a state where it's going into overdrive, right? So it's necessary for us to look at our speech. And I know what you're saying, Marcus. We're all grown here. Why are we talking about this? What I say and how I choose to say it, it shouldn't be of any concern to anyone else. But is that the case? No, it's not. It's not the case. Especially if this is a situation where you are using these kinds of words with people that you love, people that you're close to, business partners, individuals who have a direct effect on your life. And you mean to tell me you don't have the self-control that's necessary to be able to speak calmly to these individuals? Because I'll tell you something. Even though this may be a release, and we have the scientific evidence to prove the research, it may be a release for the person who chooses to use it. Does it really resolve a conflict? Does it? If you're in an argument with your spouse, or if you're in a discussion with your child, in the discussion or the argument may be going in the way that you don't approve of, is this how you solve that situation? By cussing? You're gonna cuss somebody out, right? Cuss your child out, cuss your wife out, cuss your friend out. You still have not solved anything. So wouldn't it be better to take the energies that you're devoting to using these kinds of words to try to get to the heart of matters, to calmly and peacefully work for a resolution? Because in the end, guess what happens when you take that particular route? Then you feel good about it because you were able to resolve the issue at hand, and then the person that you're dealing with feels the same way. So doesn't that sound like a better solution? Doesn't it? What kind of picture are you painting when you choose to use words that are absolutely harmful? Let me tell you. After doing a little research on, you know me, I'm gonna do the research first before I open my mouth. Notice this. Profanity in general affects impressions. What are impressions? The way that people see you. You have approximately 7 seconds, especially when it comes to your first impression. You have approximately 7 seconds to make a good impression, and the majority of that is nonverbal. But now notice this. It says the use of profanity resulted in less favorable impression ratings of the speaker in overall impression of intelligence, trustworthiness, proneness to anger, politeness, offensiveness, aggressiveness, and likability. So what is that saying? That's saying that overall, you lessen the effect of your impression on individuals by using profanity. And it goes even so far as to say that a person may be looked at as less trustworthy because they choose to use these particular words, or they choose to be sarcastic, or they choose to communicate in any other way that's not effective. This is the impression that you leave on people because of what you choose to say. So is it important? Absolutely it is. It's important. And I wouldn't be bringing this topic up unless I have seen, or I had seen in my life, that this was something that has a profound effect on those around you. As I mentioned, my father, when you think about using profanity and things of that sort, it was just his language. He cussed when he was happy, he cussed when he was sad, he just cussed. That was just him. And at a certain point in my life, I decided that wasn't something I wanted to do. And so after having that conversation with my father, it became clear that not only was I not going to do it myself, I didn't fancy anyone using that language toward me, even though you can't stop that. You try to be as peaceful as you possibly can, as positive as you can, and hopefully those around you pick up on that. But at any rate, those are the facts. That's how profanity, that's how cursing actually affects you. It's a release, supposedly, for those who use it, and for those that are the hearers, for those are those who are the object of cursing, it puts their body into fight or flight. As we noticed, the article said that it sends your brain into overdrive because you're trying to figure out what needs to be your next move. It triggers that kind of response in individuals who hear you. So it's up to you. As I mentioned at the beginning, we are grown. We all choose to say and do whatever we please, but what kind of effect are you having? What kind of impression are you leaving on those around you? Something to think about. Because don't you want to be viewed as an individual who is trustworthy? Don't you want to be viewed as an individual who has control of his or her emotions? I think you do. That's just me though. Okay. So we're going to end it right there. As always, man, I appreciate y'all coming back and sitting down and listening to an old man. But now look, let me first of all apologize for the last 2 weeks. I have been indisposed, but I'll tell you, this time of year, and it's a weird thing, because this time of year usually I have some difficulties. Here in the South we call it the crud, and so you get it and it runs its course in the week, and after the week is up you feel wonderful. But every year this happens to me, and my daughter, she knows it like clockwork, right? I'll go down for a week and then I'll be back up again. And so that's what happened. Building up to it, I thought I would be able to circumvent it this year, taking medications and things of that sort. But still, the week came and it's gone and I'm back in action. So if you will excuse my absence, I promise you it wasn't for anything frivolous, okay? Dealing with this every year. You would think that I would just get up and go to the doctor, right? Well, maybe we'll do that next year, okay? But as always, man, you know how we end this thing. Do something positive today. Not this week, but today. And see, don't you find that it comes back to you in greater measure. I hope that this discussion, man, was something that was interesting, and I hope that it's something that you can look at and say, well, maybe I need to look at the way that I speak to people around me. I'm sure that after hearing the facts, you'll come to the right conclusion, okay? We love you. Peace.